is a subreddit that I found out about when I was filming a different video, so let's dive into it because it's titled r/defending AI art, and it's really interesting. So the subreddit's little caption says, "Fighting misinformation and attempts at legislation against AI, artificial intelligence generated artwork." Well, this is most definitely really interesting. Look, don't send hate to any parties involved in the situation, but I always do think it's very interesting if there's a situation where they're fighting against legislation that protects the IP or the intellectual property of those involved. So this is like a post that I think was also made in the subreddit. It's a little meme where it says, "Hi, can I commission you?" And they have some cash. And then the evil artist says, "$60 ain't enough, Pori. The cost is 260 buckaroos." And then the meme guy is like, "K," and then turns to go use AI. And then the artist is like, "No," and it's all mad. And then the caption says, "This is why I use AI." And then the person who posted it says, "Have you never thought of commissioning a cheaper artist?" And then OP, who posted it into r/defending AI art, says, "Yeah, because commissioning a cheaper artist with worse skills is definitely the solution." There's a lot to break down here. I definitely think it's really interesting because it's like, I don't know, most artists who have commissions have their prices pretty publicly available. So if the artist's price is $260, which depending on what they're selling is very fair, right? And you come to them with $60, you're just trying to undersell them. Like, I don't know. I feel like most people wouldn't have the audacity. People aren't going to walk into, I don't know, freaking Apple store, right? And see an iPhone for $800 and be like, "Yo, so I got $200, take it or leave it." And when they say no, well, fuck you guys. I'm going to go and buy one off AliExpress instead. Like, okay. Apple doesn't care, right? Because you're going to try to go and commission them with a price way below what the artist's public price is. That's just kind of disrespectful. If you're looking for artwork and your budget is $60, then go find an artist whose pricing is $60. Don't go and ask an artist whose price is $300 to do it for 60. So the point they're trying to make with this meme is that, well, they're just going to go and turn to AI instead. And the artist gets mad that they didn't get the money. Well, first off, I feel like most artists, if you come to them, again, dramatically undercharging for what their price is, they're not going to be mad that you left. They're going to be like, "Good riddance," because this person is probably going to give me an absolute run for my money if I actually said yes. But secondly, the part that is not funny to me is like a gotcha, well, I'm just going to go to AI and generate it instead. This is like theft, right? And the thing is, in the meme situation, right? The meme person who uses AI, what the joke essentially is, it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to an AI image generator and generate the thing that I was looking for in your art style. So I'm going to steal your art style, and instead of commissioning you, I'm gonna cut corners, steal your art style, and generate an image using your art style and likeness for $0." That's just theft. Like, I would say the equivalent of this meme is, again, you go to the Apple store, you're like, "Yo, I got $200," and they're like, "Dude, the iPhone is 800. What are you talking about?" And you're like, "Screw you guys, I'm gonna steal it." And then you break in the middle of the night and steal an iPhone. I guess you can do that if you don't want to pay. Don't do that though. Don't steal. That's not cool and that's illegal. Like, I don't know. I think it's very interesting. But the comment section, it's just full of people agreeing, being like, "Yeah, fuck the artist, man. Just use AI to generate it instead because all artists are liars and scammers." Oh my god. This one's funny. Somebody made like an AI generated comic. So we have an artist and a prompter. I guess that's what I'm going to call them, right? And the artist says, "AI art isn't real art. It just copies humans." And the prompter says, "AI is a tool, like cameras or digital brushes." And then there's a middle guy and they're like basically making art for like an art festival. And the guy's like, "Show your work at the festival. The audience will vote." So then they both go and make their art in quotes, right? Where the artist draws and the guy just types into ChatGPT. And then they're in front of the crowd being like, "Yo, da 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 da, like vote for which one is best." And then they're talking about like AI and stuff. And then one girl's like crying, being like, "My hands AI helped me make backgrounds for my comic," which, like, I don't know what this means. And they're like, "Is my art fake because I needed help?" So the final outcome in the comic is that everybody sides with the machine, right? Everybody sides with AI, being like, "AI is great." And the artist is like, "Wait, so everyone chooses machines?" And the prompter guy is like, "Nope, they choose hope. I want more people to create." And the girl looks at a graphic about AI, and then she's like, "I still don't like it, but show me how you use it." And he's like, "Only if you teach me how to paint clouds." And they work together. What in the fanfic? I mean, I think this is just like somebody's dream situation, honestly, because I don't think you're going to end up in a situation where the public overwhelmingly supports AI. And they're also not going to end up in a situation where the public overwhelmingly is against AI personally, unfortunately. But because it's done as like a gotcha in this comic, but you're gonna end up with like a mixed review of the public if you take like an overall public poll. I personally don't view AI as hope for the future, hope for artists, etc. Again, everybody's entitled to their own opinions at the end of the day. Personally, from what I've seen with people's usage of AI and also studies that have come out, etc., AI I feel like has made people stupider. Everybody just like goes into ChatGPT. Instead of like looking things up and cross-referencing their sources, they just immediately trust what ChatGPT says. A lot of times it lies. A lot of times it generates things that are incorrect. And again, Google searches will also lie, and Google searches will also have incorrect information. This is why you cross-check your sources and you look at more than one source so that you're not getting your information from only one place. But I digress, right? I also think it's really interesting, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I haven't seen like people who use AI generated images have like a really open mind to learning art. I don't know. I just haven't seen it. Maybe there are people like that. I think it's funny because there's a comment that says, to make art using AI requires no learned skill. You don't have to spend years studying and investing time and energy into something you really care about. To compare it to a camera or digital brushes is just silly. You still need to be able to use those tools in order to realize your vision. AI is a tool that does everything for you, and I understand why people hate it, especially calling it art. And it got 2 downvotes. But I think that's the interesting thing at the end of the day, because a big portion of art is like the joy when you see your final product and you know that you made it, that you put this together. And again, you put it together through tools, right? Like digital brushes, 3D models if you use them, etc. But you compiled everything together and used your skills and techniques to blend it all together into a final art piece. Just because you downloaded a pretty brush pack and stuck in a 3D model doesn't mean you automatically get a nice looking art piece. You still need to go and draw it yourself. And that joy that comes from knowing I made this is like the beauty of artwork. And I don't know, you lose all of that if you prompt it. Do people who prompt for AI generated images, do they look at it and be like, man, I worked real hard at this AI generated comic, go me? Because you know you didn't make it at the end of the day, right? Or do they just delude themselves into thinking this is an artistic creation they made? I low-key think it is like that. This next one is a post on Twitter where it says, well, so-and-so chose to block me instead of apologizing. So coming soon. And it looks like they took that person's art style and ran it through AI and then generated a whole bunch of images using it, which is like beyond violating and screwed up. Oh my God. The person who posts this says, I truly despise how so many artists block and refuse to work with AI artists. I truly appreciate this man's work of creating models that copy the styles of anti-artists out there. So we still have options despite the discrimination, which by the way, like that's what they call people who don't like Gen AI. They call them antis, which like every community calls, I feel like, the people against what they're supporting antis. But that's what they call us. Okay, so when they say antis, it means you're anti-AI art. What in the actual hell am I reading right now? I'm trying to be open-minded and trying to see other people's perspectives. Again, I do not like generative AI and I do not support it. It steals from artists, it steals people's artworks and styles, etc. But like, what level of entitlement I feel do you have to be like, wow, well, as a gotcha to this other person, I'm gonna take their years and years of artwork, their hard work, all the material that they have created through their blood, sweat, and tears, and time that they have spent in developing their art style. I'm gonna feed it all into AI and generate images using it. That is a gross level of entitlement, in my opinion, where you feel like you deserve to have the years and years of time, effort, and skill that they have spent developing. All for what? All because the artist blocked you on Twitter? Maybe probably because you said something that pissed them off? And again, artists are allowed to block people. There are a few other posts here as well. It says Style V1 is now public, free to use, and won't judge you for your religious boundaries. Here's another person talking about how they scrape somebody else's art from the internet because they don't have any old art. Here's somebody else who posted about an artist who locked their account, but then they had already grabbed stuff to go make a Laura with it. There's more. Here's another one. I wonder how much slop I can flood her tag with before I get noticed. Anywho, this model was a commission from a special someone who didn't appreciate having somebody block them, specifically to talk about them behind their back. And here's an artist who says, I don't support AI or my images being trained with it. That's why they're blocked. And the person responds, I wasn't even going to. Regarding the training AI, right? I had no plans to. I wanted to pay you with money for goods and services. Which, on a side note, I don't believe this for 1 second. If you truly respected artists and you wanted to pay them for their time and service, you wouldn't run their art through AI. You just wouldn't do that. Like, that just would not be a thought that crossed your mind. So because it did, I don't think you had any intentions to do this. This is just like some emotional plea to try to make yourself seem less like an a-hole. But they continue. All he did was take somebody who wanted to be a paying customer and offer them with no choice but to use AI if they wanted to get something done in your art style. Like, this is what I mean by the entitlement. right? Like you feel so entitled to this artist's art style, which again, they spent years and years learning and developing. And because you piss them off, since you can't commission them, you're gonna what? Make a Laura using their art style so you can get art in their art style. Again, this is like a severe level of entitlement. Did like nobody ever tell you no in your life? Like the amount of times this has happened is crazy. Here's like another one. To reiterate, I had no plans for this. My plate is already full with other projects. I just want to support an artist I liked. You know, the thing artists keep screaming at me to do, but they decided to jump the gun, block me, and then send their friends and 18K plus followers to harass me. So yeah, look forward to this model going public soon. I just need to iron out some of the kinks. Spite is a powerful thing. I tell you what, you're just a dick, bro. I think the comments are so interesting too. A comment says, if they're refusing a commission purely based on somebody being an AI artist, then screw them. No other way around it. Again, I think that's so weird. An artist is completely entitled to not want to work with a client. Again, I don't know who needs to tell you this, okay? But no is a word that you're, as an adult, right? If you're a kid, maybe you never were told this, that you will hear. Do I need to hold your hands and tell you that the proper reaction when somebody tells you no is to accept the no? You can be a little upset that you heard a no because maybe you were hoping to hear a yes, but at the end of the day, a no is a no, and a no is a complete sentence. And you do not go and harass the person who told you no, coerce them into giving you a yes, go and bully them, or through other means, try to acquire the thing that you were told no about. This is 101 adulting. And the fact that people have to be told this is honestly absurd. I think the comments here in this subreddit are really interesting because most comments in this defending AI art subreddit are super defending AI art. There are some comments that are like, yo, I don't get the whole I have a right to your OC nonsense, like, which is an original character, right? And they add, like, an art style, sure, fine. Nobody owns those, so I don't really particularly care. Which I personally do disagree with the art style part a little bit because, like, sure, you know, an art style is pretty intimate to an artist and they spent a lot of time developing it. Sure, in the technicality, nobody owns an art style, but if you do deliberately go out of your way to one imitate this person's art style, it feels a little creepy. It's kind of in a way like the equivalent of like when there's a celebrity and there's like a celebrity fan that like heavily completely alters their style to look like a doppelganger of that celebrity. Like sure, you guys are still two different people, and like sure, Ariana Grande doesn't own the concept of a high pony, but you just look a little weird and you look a little creepy, okay? But they continue, but original creations, that doesn't make sense to me. And another commenter says, agreed, manipulating people's OCs unwarranted feels wrong to me. And they got downvoted, by the way, which is crazy. Another commenter says, bro is acting like an actual supervillain. I guess if they actually sent their followers to bully that person, it's warranted, but for refusing services, I don't see it. Any entrepreneur has right to refuse giving service. And other people are adding, they have the right to refuse service for certain reasons, like not wanting to draw specific things, but the personal beliefs of the client are not one of them. Another person adds, there was some kind of contract already signed and there's no details in their TOS conflicting with it, or more local anti-discrimination laws that apply. Artists are usually free to decline commissions as long as it isn't based on protected characteristics, which would be stuff like race, religion, or sexual orientation. And they add, an artist taking commissions is a creative independent freelancer. Freelancers, particular artists, often have a greater right to refuse than other types of businesses outside of for protected categories in the US. And I really don't think using AI falls under a protected category. Which again, like I agree. If you refuse to make artwork for somebody because of their skin color or because of their ethnicity, that makes you racist. But refusing to make artwork for somebody who is really pro AI, I'm gonna be honest, if you're pro AI art, an artist is going to be really uncomfortable, or most artists I feel would be really uncomfortable making art for you because they can't guarantee that their artwork is not going to be used in some way, shape, or form with AI because you are so pro AI, right? That's something I feel that's completely valid for artists to decline, just obviously. Another example is like if you have like an online store where you take every artwork that you've ever received from artists that you've bought and then you put them on t-shirts and you sell it. And every single one of these artworks you never bought commercial rights for. So these are all personal artworks that you're then selling for profit on t-shirts. A lot of artists will probably say no to working with you because they can't guarantee the artwork that they make for you isn't going to go onto your t-shirt store. Artists are completely allowed to say no, to decline working with clients. And again, no is a complete sentence. Unless you fall under those protected categories, which I agree, if you decline working with somebody just because of their skin tone, race, ethnicity, whatever, you're weird. But beyond that, right? If they don't like the stuff you're posting on Twitter, it's fine for them to say no. And you are weird if you react violently afterwards to hearing a no. that makes you a massive problem. And that is a problem you need to deal with. It's not the artist's problem. So at the end of the day, what are your thoughts on this entire situation, on all of these posts people have? There's always going to be people who are pro generative AI. There's always going to be people who are against it. I personally do not support generative AI. There's always going to be people in the middle ground. Although I do feel like Gen AI is something where you either are for or you're against. It's very hard to be in the middle. The middle doesn't really exist here. What are your thoughts? Where do you stand? And I'd love to hear your comments with respect in the comment section down below. But with that, I hope you like this video and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators. I also have a coffee with free resources like a free sponsorship guide. And I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays and Saturdays at 6 p.m. and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. PST. So I hope to catch y'all there or in another video. Peace.